Hello and welcome to 3.28 Mirage patch recap. So this one was a little bit of a bigger patch because of all the changes that are coming into the game. However, I've tried to condense them as much as possible into a bite-sized amount of info. Keep in mind, this is not the full extent of the info, as like gem numbers and like unique numbers are not really for a recap thing. I will, however, link the patch notes down below in the description so you can see them for the full extent. And if you have any of the gems and unique items or things that have changed, or maybe there was a bug report that you have reported and maybe it has been fixed, so you can change that one with Ctrl F. But so you don't have to skip through the entire or read through the entire thing, we can skip through it with this one. So as you have seen, we have the new content and we have Reliquarian Ascendancy for Scion. This is the Fresha Ascendancy. However, it is nerfed around 20-25% and no Forbidden Flesh and Flame because it changes, the Ascendancy changes every league. So they said they will rotate them out. We'll see how it works, but for now, that's exciting news. Exceptional support gems replace awakened support gems. They are stronger for a few percentages here and there, but they do cost more mana, so keep that in mind. That might cause some builds to actually go for a higher tier Enlighten. Coins of Knowledge add a random Strength, Int, or Dexterity support gem to a level 20 skill gem, which can be found on the pathofexile.com/mirage, and you can look through those as well, what they've added, and this is like the Coin of Power. Well, one of the three, of course. So we can add the different support gems of color. Now we have plethora of new skill gems and support gems, especially the new ones added, which we will see over the course of the next few days. New rune grafts, new uniques and div cards, and there's also a little bit of a new thing, which is a new Essence of Desolation, and we have Crystallized Rancor. These ones will be found in the respective mechanics and probably in the Mirage section of the mechanics. Okay, so for Endgame, currently we have a completely different new system. Atlas has been reworked, split into 4 areas with 4 bonus areas with void stones, and maps drop as general maps, something akin to PoE 2. However, you can put them in predetermined positions on the Atlas tree in their quadrant into specific maps, so it's not like PoE 2 where you cannot choose what map you're playing. Here you can choose what map you're playing, which is very, very useful. Now they of course drop as general maps, and the only requirement for Atlas points this time around is 10 unique maps completion, not 17 or so as it was before, or 15 that gave Atlas points, so only 10. We also have 138 passive points instead of 132, so we got extra 6. Now astrolabes make a return. Those were like old sextants, and when applied, they affect maps in the quadrant, a few maps here and there, and these are the shaped regions. That's what the astrolabes do. Now, doing these maps adds more modifiers to remaining ones, which makes any subsequent maps more difficult and rewarding. However, there is also a keystone notable that you can pick. So let's say you just want to do Defiled Cathedral, as it was, that keystone notable will make it when you do a Defiled Cathedral, one of the other ones is going to be depleted or count as completed, and the Defiled Cathedral is going to be empowered. So you don't really need to do all of these maps. You could just farm one. But that is going to be with the Atlas and everything when that gets the JSON files when they get released. So when you complete the shaped region, Egon teleports you to a vault where you can loot stuff, and this is target farming. There are 4 different vaults, and you can basically target farm certain things. Some vaults drop unique, some vaults drop currency items. We will figure those out, but it is a fun thing for people who like determinism. Now, next one, favorite map slots have been removed in favor of this system, which makes absolute sense, as you can play any map that you want, whenever you want. And memory skills via petals have been removed and integrated in those maps, some in those like mini shrines at the end of the boss or at the end of the map, and some into map mods. Voidstone changes, we have here Shaper and Elder separately, give the Void Stone, or Uber Elder gives the Void Stone. Searing and Eater give a separate Void Stone, and the instead of each, of course, and Maven is the same. So Maven 1 stays the same, and fourth Void Stone is Incarnation of Dread. So there are now 4 Void Stones. It's going to be a little bit easier to get them. Now, the wording is not 100% clear. Do you get a half of Shaper, half of Elder, Searing, and Eater, or do you get all of them? However, if you can get a Void Stone from defeating either Shaper or Elder, or defeating them both, that's much easier than to do Uber Elder, because to do Uber Elder, you have to defeat 2 and 2, and that can take a long while. Now, they added 3 memories which serve as memory threads for incarnations, and these can be traded or used. Helps with farming Maven Invitation. For the new Maven Invitation of those 3, whoever knows their name, awesome. Those 3 have been added. Now they can be used as the invitation thing, and tier 16, basically 16.5 maps. Tier 17 maps are now nightmare maps. They are level 83, which basically makes them one tier, well, or half a tier above the rest. And completing 5 gives 5 Atlas passives, and some mods have been removed from the pool, like 6, 7, 8 mods have been removed from the pool. You can read those in patch notes, just to make this a little bit shorter. However, they drop now, from what we've seen, they drop now 3 fragments. So it's 2, 2, 3 fragments, my guess. But Uber bosses now need 4 fragments instead of 5, so that's a welcome change. Atlas bonus objectives now also give 1% to map item quantity per 4 maps done, 25 total, because there are only 100 maps this time around. Sacrifice and mortal fragments by themselves do not open areas anymore. That has been in the game for way too long, but nobody used it. But they do still add to map quantity bonuses, so that has been unchanged. Plus, now you can, if you have the entire wheel, you can just click one and the entire wheel is going to fill in, so it's easier even there. Blessed Orbs now reroll Conquer and Guardian maps. Horizon Orbs, Chisels, Reports, and Map Device Crafts have been removed. However, Map Device Crafts have been moved to some Scarabs to offset the power lost. Kirik as Master is now basically worthless other than Maven Invitations, so he's just used for Maven Invitations now. Other than that, there's nothing else for Kirik, no more missions. So he's not a Master anymore. Maven Chisels are nerfed by around 50%, however, now you only apply 1 for maximum quality, which is very important, instead of applying 4. Added more scarabs for mechanics and reworked existing ones. Those you can also read for their own things. Of course, I will be making PoE for Dummies for each and every single one of these, but that will come at a future date. There are plenty of these added, not for a recap video. For passive tree, they've removed and added keystones, keystone notables, rebalanced the existing points, and removed harbingers. Harbingers have been completely scrapped off. However, their things have remained. We will see what. But for specific changes, wait for Path of Pathing to make your own atlas. So those guys are doing a good job there as well. So Keepers as core. Aelith starts from Act 6. Foulborn uniques can be obtained by obtaining a flesh of Zesht and then applying it to the unique. Bridgestones are gone. Tree is fully grown, but you need to still level it up, so you still need to use it, and the cap is 100,000. They're calling it Graft Blood now, or Hive Blood. I think they're calling it Hive Blood now. Grafts are fully gone. They've added Breach Clusters into the Atlas passive tree. Breach Scarabs have been reworked and added with some determinism for getting the hives, and some Foulborn uniques got rebalanced as well. Harbingers removed, but Fracturing and Ancient Orbs are now core. We will see their drop rate. Bless, Engineer, and Harbinger and Horizon Orbs are completely gone. Harbinger uniques are added to base drop pool, and General Mechanic is wiped. It may come back, but we will see. League changes, Settlers has been changed. New trade port, ores bars and crops are now reversed, which means ores and bars give currency now and crops gives equipment, which is an excellent thing because now you actually have to play the game in order to get currency. Good, instead of having it as a passive thing. Rerolls to port favored resources for 15,000 gold, unless that gets rebalanced again. And shipments now grant specific tattoos, which is more determinism. It seems to me that they are now trying to make it so that you fill in your port and you get extra stuff, instead of just sending those brainless shipments, and then if you get a mirror, you get a mirror. So it's a bit better of a mechanic. Is it a nerf? Most likely, but is it really a nerf? Time will tell. Bestiary. Einhar has been revalued into something a little bit more manageable or manageable. And it's just a rebalance for things, for gems and stuff that has been added. Nothing too major. If you've used it to level awaken gems, you cannot do it. Now you're going to get 3 high-level support gems instead. Betrayal got rebalance for people in safe house. It basically changes the board a little bit, especially it that fled, because now we lose breach as a thing, and it adds breach, something else on it. Delve Scarab doesn't get you more sulfite, but you generally get more sulfite now in a map. Expedition 2gen no longer has Cluster and Abyss Jewel. Legion no longer releases Tormented Spirits in stasis, only out of stasis. And Ultimatum adds a modifier that prevents players from blocking. That's one of the modifiers that you can choose, the 3 of those. Player changes, minuscule changes with one major change, which is int now grants 1% ES per 10 instead of per 5 int. So that is basically halved for int stackers. We'll see how that influences the total amount of int and everything. We'll see how it influences my build that I've been playing, but I don't stack int, so keep that in mind. ES has been slightly nerfed from int. Skill gems got a general rebalance, and I did mention sweep here because my build now is effectively dead. The sweep build, the Slayer Impale Sweep build, is effectively dead now because now it's elemental, it's Holy Sweep, 2-handed Mace or Staff, and RIP the Impale Sweep. My opinion is they should have made it into a transfigured option, but it is what it is. Now you would play probably Grandpa with Sweep. Support gem changes. All awakened supports have been changed to greater support. They've also added more supports. Auto Exertion got nerfed to 20 reservation, and Over Exertion also got nerfed for damage. Ascendancy changes. Chieftain Hinekora got buff on to 10% explosion, up from 5. However, got a nerfed for the amount of damage it deals, 250 life, as fire down from 500. In bigger clumps of monsters, this shouldn't feel that bad, but in smaller clumps of monsters where you might rely on that 5% for extra, that could feel. So this could technically be called a rebalance, but it's just a buff on percent that you're getting, but nerf on the damage. Guardian Radiance minion is permanent now, but doesn't persist between areas. Same as Righteous Fire, you just have to reactivate it. Random shrine effects now grant greater shocking, freezing, and skeletal shrines. Time of Need now removes all ailments, not only elemental, every 4 seconds. Martial Divinity is a new notable, inflicts the Hallowing Flame, plus 1 of them, maximum, and 10 fizz is extra lightning for each flame removed recently by an ally, up to 80%. Warden. Lesson of the Seasons is now minus 25 damage taken, not percent, 25 damage taken of each type per bark, up from 10 or from 15 that it was. However, it is not just elemental anymore, so that's all physical and all chaos. So, and that's for spells, if I'm not mistaken, but yeah. Avatar of the Wilds got a wacky buff, which means my Rain of Arrows Warden is lovely now. Even more, got to 100% more ally damage, up from 80. Assassin Opportunistic now has damage cannot be reflected. Previously, only crits were not reflected. Saboteur, Perfect Crime notable, 5% buff, 30% less damage versus 35. Like Clockwork got the buff, 50% cooldown recovery versus 40. Calculated risk, added a line, damage of enemies hitting you is unlucky as a technical buff. Elementalist, goodbye golems, no more effective buffs, that one has been deleted. Ascendant Assassin node, damage cannot be reflected, is now the same there. Bloodlines. Owl auras while you have minimum charges versus 0 charges. Breach Lord, otherworldly appendages is now cryogenesis, that's how it's called now, and gives, if you have the highest int, all added damage is lightning. If you have highest dex, it's cold. Katarina, Prolonged Servitude buff to 20% more damage versus 15. Valerius Misty Reflection lasts 3 seconds up from 2, but has 5% of max life down from 10. Farol Primal Roar gives 4% more attack speed per minion up to 80%, up from 2 per, and Spectral Tigers have half of life but do more damage and have increased attack speed. Lycia Sinner Saint converts 67% of Fire Cold Lightning to Chaos, which is up from 50, a very significant buff there. Nameless Unlight Silhouette buff to 25% up to 20. Olroth got general buff. Boon of the Mountain buff to 50% up to 30. Boon of the Sun 30% restoration up to 20. Enhanced Starlight 70 increased ward up to 40. And Ward Shatter buff got a rebalance to 200% more damage up from 80, but less base damage. However, cooldown is buffed to 0.15, which is down from 0.5, or technically up. So now it's every 0.15 and no longer applies innervation debuff. That's a rebalance. Oshabi has Vivid Cat, provides 50% increased effective marks while elusive instead of increased stealth, so now that's more viable. Passive skill tree, we got extra nodes around Templar area and some masteries got redone a little bit as well there. And unique item changes, we got some general rebalance and of course check the notes, the most notable being Beano's Kitchen Knife and Sanguinis Claw, which are going to, I think, see now a little bit more play. Now, item changes, we in general got more currency because they have removed some items from the loot pool, which paves way for more currency, which is great. Ground loot has been mentioned. Rejoice. Awesome. King's March item nerfed a bit. They nerfed the tiering system of King's March a bit, but that's a subtle nerf, I guess. Drop rate is increased for Exalted and Regal Orbs in general play, and Primordial Bond nerfed to 20% effect down from 40 for Golems. Again, so they really are sick of Elementalist and Golems, it seems. Next one, removed Flask Enchants from Horticrafting Bench because nobody used them really, and Essences now stack to 10, the best change. It's no longer 9 per Essence, it's 10. Phenomenal. Absolutely extremely good. Now we can use all fingers to count essences instead of having to chop one off. Anyways, UI and QOL. Ritual shows completion and highlights plus vessels are usable under Ritual. History log on Merchant on Mouseover. Favorite trades on Faustus. Stash tab on Faustus. Labcraft gives options instead of random gem to transfigured option. So turn the gem into a random transfigured of that gem. So now you can choose which one if it has multiple. Control click div cards opens the sets auto on the vendor. Shrines are easier to highlight. And Divine Orb hover shows numbers in orange. Those numbers that could be potentially changed. Overall, the announcement and the patch notes themselves were, for me, a solid 9. Brings more play to beginner players, absolutely. More things to even go higher and further beyond. I will be updating one of my builds at least that I will be league starting, so it's Caustic Arrow for now. We'll see how that goes, but until all the JSON files and everything is sorted, that might be a thought experiment first, but I will be playing that build most likely now that we are a week and half a day, a little bit more, away from playing Mirage. However, all of these changes will be, of course, covered to beginner level and more extent, and I will be updating the website as well with the info that has been shown and that we will see in game. It's going to take a little bit as they've changed a lot of stuff, but so far, so good and so excellent. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, please do give it a like, sub if you don't mind. If you have any questions, PoE related, feel free to always post them down in not in the description, that's for me, in the comment section down below. Thank you once again for watching, and I will see you in the next video or stream. Have a good one.